Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson, and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it is all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, but we're going to pick out the biggest business story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, and our favourite business story. So let's jump into it. There's really only one biggest story this week, wasn't there?
I think so. It's the improvement in Australia's relationship with China. This week we found out that Beijing had made a preliminary ruling to cut tariffs on $1 billion worth of wine. Then China's top diplomat, Foreign Minister Wang Yi, decided to visit Australia. As Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said, significant progress had been made in recent months to remove trade impediments with China, including that ruling this week. He said having a dialogue with China is a good thing. Now, the discussions with Wang Yi are expected to include consular matters, trade impediments, human rights, conflict prevention, etc., etc. Relations really went downhill from 2018 when Huawei was effectively banned from Australia. Then we had Scott Morrison pushing for an inquiry into the source of COVID. Things have slowly improved. Big economic partner of Australia. It's good that things are getting back on track. As Penny Wong put it, they're stabilising as opposed to normalising.
Yeah, it's a big story, isn't it? And most remarkable. I think we can agree on that one as being the biggest. So let's move on to the most remarkable story this week. And I've got a nomination for this is the comments made by local business leaders about some of the biggest companies on the planet. And this is a little bit unusual for people like Commonwealth Bank CEO Matt Comyn because he's not normally so outspoken about other companies. But he did get stuck into the US tech giants this week, saying that he found it extraordinary the lack of scrutiny they come under. Apple, for instance, and these stats are pretty telling. They made revenue of $12 billion in Australia and paid tax of just $160 million, meaning that it had an effective tax rate of 4% compared to the 30% rate paid by the Commonwealth Bank. When you put it like that, you can kind of see why he's getting a bit annoyed. You had Peter Costello, former treasurer and chair of Nine Entertainment, describing Google and Meta as monopolies on a global scale that would make Rockefeller blush. There were others commenting on the need for more competition, like Macquarie Group's boss. But I just think it's all pretty remarkable that these business leaders are standing up like this and actually perhaps calling for more scrutiny and more regulation of these global giants.
They sound a bit fed up, don't they? Look, my most remarkable story also involves the banks. It's just how well they've performed in the past couple of months. CBA hit a new record this week. National Australia Bank, Westpac and ANZ are all at record highs. The flip side to that, though, are the mining companies, BHP, Fortescue Metals, Rio Tinto. They've really been sliding recently because of lower commodity prices. This all matters, of course, because we have superannuation and most of us actually invest in the banks and the miners. So we're having the upside with the banks, even though many professional investors think they're too expensive, and a downside with the miners. Pretty remarkable how those two sectors have diverged from each other.
Can I nominate a sleeper story this week, Sean? And it's a bit of an odd one because at the moment it isn't so much of a sleeper because there's a lot of noise around it. The US House of Representatives has passed a bill banning TikTok in the States unless its Chinese owner sells the video sharing app. It has to go to the Senate now. But the background to this is that the proponents of the ban argue that the Chinese government has influence over ByteDance, which owns TikTok, and that they say the app is used as a propaganda tool. Any ban would trigger a bit of a standoff between the US and China. I suggest it might be a sleeper story because there could be then pressure mounting for the same thing to happen in Australia. We've already seen this week the Prime Minister being asked that very question. He says the government has no plans to ban TikTok here. But it's one of those things that if it does go through in the US, you could think that there might be similar kind of calls for it to happen here as well, which would then perhaps put into jeopardy the improving relationship between Australia and China.
It's going to be fascinating to watch that one, Michael.
Indeed. Favourite story, Sean, what have you got for us?
I like this next story because it explains what the rise of big tech and Zoom and team meetings and online shopping, etc., has done to a traditional sector of the economy. The value of industrial property in Australia has grown rapidly over the past 3 years, now the same size as the value of office property, according to CBRE. For years, industrial space was a poor cousin out in the back blocks. Ain't no more. We had online shopping, then we had COVID, then we had accelerated needs for companies to have big warehouses to send out goods, then came data centers, cloud computing, AI. Now, office is the poor cousin to industrial. quite incredible. Retail comes in third. It's worth about $270 billion compared to the close to $300 billion of the other two. It's something that a decade ago, very few would have imagined or reimagined this shifting in the real estate sector, but it's happened. It highlights what a totally different business world we now live in. Michael?
One quick nomination for me for favourite story of the week. It's all about crypto. Bitcoin booming this week, setting new all-time records, past the 73,000 US dollar mark, so more than 110,000 Aussie dollars. And in doing so, it took its gains to around 70% for this year alone, largely because of the flow of money into US exchange-traded funds, more than $15 billion invested into those Bitcoin ETFs since they launched a couple of months ago. It's just remarkable to watch this and just go, okay, where is this going? And that is why, of course, we are not an investing podcast, Sean, and we always say that you should get professional advice before making investment decisions. But it is fascinating to watch, isn't it?
Sure is. Amazing.
All right, there we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow and join us online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.